Great. Welcome. It's good to have you. Let's talk about what I call a great woman. A great woman is a woman who is great. And I really want every woman to be great. We want our daughters to be great. We want our wives to be great. We want our mothers to be great. And this talks about great woman. So I'm going to share from the Word of God and from my experience of encountering great women. And I just want to share this with you from chapter 4, the book of 2 Kings. Let's get in there. Verse 8. Listen to this. Now it happened one day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there was a notable woman. King James says a great woman. And she persuaded him to eat some food. So it was as often as he passed by, he would turn in there to eat some food. Now you can see this chapter opens with this story in verse 8 about a great woman, a notable woman. And we're going to see her different attributes. But first of all, you will have wondered what began that chapter. It's another story of a woman. Let's look at it in verse 1. Take a look at this. It says this. Listen. A certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophet cried out to Elisha, saying, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. The creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slave." Elisha said to her, "What shall I do for you? Tell me what you have in your house." And she said, "Your servant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil." Now, you can see that contrast. The first story was about a certain woman. The second story was about a great woman. Now, the certain woman had a problem. Her husband died. She's now a widow. Her husband left some debt. She's looking for a way out of it. And then the man of God gave her a miracle, what to do, and she got the miracle. But this other woman was talking about great woman. Think about that. Great woman. Verse 8 says, "Now it happened one day that Elisha went to Shunem, where there was a notable or a great woman, and she persuaded him to eat some food. So it was as often as he passed by, he would turn in there to eat some food." Now, if you see the very first attribute of a great woman, she didn't come crying to the prophet. She was not coming to take some miracles. She was thinking of contributing to the welfare of the man of God. She was thinking of adding value. She was thinking of bringing something on the table. She was not just seeing the prophet as just somebody who goes about giving miracles to people who have problems. And she had problems. We'll see that later. But she just became a contributor, a producer, a giver. So the very first attribute of a woman who is a great woman, that she comes on the scene here. We didn't even know her name. She was persuading the man of God to eat. And every time the man of God would pass that place, she wanted to give. She was not thinking about her problem, but she was thinking of being a solution provider. What will she make available to facilitate the man of God? Not how will I get something out of the man of God or out of God. So this person was a contributor to God and his kingdom, not just a consumer of God's works and miracles. You can see that very platform of a woman that is a great woman. So a great woman is a contributor, is a giver, not just a taker. Of course she will take, but her whole mindset is to be a giver. And every time the man of God will pass, he will. And then she became progressive. See, a great person don't just stay at one level. It keeps growing, keeps growing. Look at what happened next after she started doing that. Look at it. And she said to her husband, "Look now, I know that this is a holy man of God who passes by us regularly. Please, let us make a small upper room on the wall. Let us put a bed for him there, and a table, and a chair, and a lampstand. So it will be, whenever he comes to us, he can turn in there." Interesting. Look at this woman. She went progressive in her contribution. That was a great person. A great person doesn't just do only one thing forever. She keeps improving and getting better at it. And something I noticed is this. She's also a decision maker. Okay, she didn't do this by herself. She talked to her husband. She presented the different ideas she had. You know, great women actually bring up ideas. Great women don't just wait for their husband to do everything, to do all the thinking and all the working. They participate in the executive board of their different lives policies. You could see she came and said, look, this man has been passing by us. Let's do something bigger. Let's make a room. Let's put a bed there. Let's put a chair. Let's put a lampstand. She's getting to increase in her ability to contribute. She's taking her performance higher. She wants to excel in what she was doing. So you can see over here now, she began to do that. So a great woman is a woman who doesn't only take initiatives, she also gets up into what I call joint decision making and influencing things for better. So you could see her doing that. And what happened next was the fact that after she finished constructing the house, she built the place along with her husband. She finished it. She knew who she should talk to and contact when it comes to different decisions. She was giving food, but when it came to putting a house up, like a penthouse for the man of God, to make a room for God in her house, she went to discuss with her husband. And she made that joint decision along with the husband, and they got the job done. Let's go a step further. Now, when the man of God now came to the house and then entered the room, she was thinking, wow. Or he was thinking, what should we do for this great woman? And then she asked the woman. The woman said, the prophet said, should I talk to the king about you? Maybe give you some kind of thing, go to capital city. You know what she said? I think we need to read it. So let's just read it. Now, look at verse 11. And it happened one day that he came there, and he turned into the upper room and lay down there. Then he said to Gehazi his servant, call this Shunammite woman. When they had called her, stood before him, and said to him, say now to her, look, you've been concerned for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Do you want me to speak on your behalf to the king or to the commander of the army? She answered, I dwell among my own people. Did you see that? She was contented in her greatness. She's contented in what she's doing. She's not, looking for another thing. She had settled down in her own life. She's like a tree planted. She's not roving around. She's maximizing her ability and her strength and her capacity where she is. The king was thinking of, let me shift to you. He said, no, I'm doing well right here. Now, when you meet a great woman, she's contented in her home, she's contented in her capacity, and she's contented in her environment, and she can be turning up better and better right where she is. She can bear fruit. Now, she had the need. Let's look at what happened next. Then Gehazi answered, actually, she has no son, and her husband is old. She said, call her. When he had called her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son. She said, no, my Lord, man of God, do not lie to your maid servant. Now, nobody knew she didn't have a son. I mean, it was not general. She was not going to the prophet. Can you just imagine making food for the prophet, building a house for the prophet, and she didn't have a son, and her husband was old. She never made her need a major priority. She made her contribution a major priority. That is the trademark of a great woman. She focused. And then when we were asking her, she said, oh, what do you want? She said, oh, I want a son. She just calmed down and said, look, I'm okay. Then the man of God said, you're going to have a son. Somebody had to tell the prophet her need. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine that? Greatness is not in emphasizing your need. It's in emphasizing your supply, your contribution. So she got up to do that, and she began to move and contributed her own part. But then somebody saw her need. And then the prophet said, but this time next year, I said, look, don't lie to me, don't lie to me, don't lie to me. And then she actually had a baby boy, amazingly. See, unlike the first woman, certain woman had problems, she came crying. There's nothing wrong with that. When we're in problem, let's cry to the Lord. But let's go beyond that to become a notable, a great woman. So this woman was a great woman, contributing, and not emphasizing her need, but her contribution. And see, even got beyond what she was bargaining for. She got a baby. But I want to show you the power of a great woman in crisis. So that baby was born. That baby began to grow and lived with them. One day the baby went with the husband to the farm, or the child now, the boy. And then while they were at the farm, let's read it. I don't just want to quote it. Verse 18. And the child grew. Now it happened one day that he went out to his father to the reapers, and he said to his father, my head, my head. But he said to his servant, carry him to his mother. When they had taken him and brought him to his mother, sat on her knees till noon, and then she died. Wow, when he died. You could see that. Now, God gave her a son through the prophet. And then the son grew up working with his father and just said, my head, oh my head. And they took him home to the mother and died on her lap. Could you see that? The baby was on her lap, on her knees rather. And, it's quite close. The great woman still has time for the family, still has time for her children. She's not all over the world and no good at home. She was thinking of this child, and the baby died on her knees by around 12. No. Now, let's see what the great woman will do in crisis. Will she just go apart? No. Look at what happened next. Interesting. Let's read it. Great woman in crisis. Then she called to her husband and said, please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys that I may run to the man of God and come back. So he said, why are you going to him today? It's neither the new moon nor the Sabbath. And he said, it is well. Then she saddled the donkey, said to her servant, drive and go forward. Do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you. And so she departed unto the man of God at Mount Carmel. Now, very interesting. Now, see a woman handling the crisis. The husband was in the farm. The baby died at home. What will she do? She would have gone apart, going berserk. But a woman, a great woman, knows how to handle crisis by staying calm, cool, and collected. She asked the husband to send a donkey, means of transportation. And then I said, I want to go and see the prophet. The husband said, hey, what is it? She didn't tell the husband because she believed she will get it done before he comes back home while he's busy doing the work. Isn't that interesting? I love this woman. She told the person that is riding the donkey, run. A furious driver, run. And they got to the man of God. You know the rest of the story. But something she did, I want to share with you before she took that step of going to go and see the man of God. Look at verse 21. It says, and she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, shut the door behind upon him and went out. She built that her contribution. She laid her son on the altar of her contribution. If she never built a room for the man of God, where will she put the baby? She did that, put that there, and guess what happened next? She went to go and meet the prophet, and the prophet had to come down to that same room where he was staying, and then he raised that baby from the dead. In crisis, she was calm, cool, and collected. So we have seen a great woman in contribution, in not emphasizing her need in the midst of crisis. She did well. I challenge you to go and read as a woman this chapter 4, 2 Kings, over and over again, and imbibe the attributes, the characters, and the mindset of this great woman. Thank you for listening.